She called the cops and screamed, "Arrest him!" But I was on my own land. I froze for a second, staring at the two men in black uniforms standing at my front porch. Their badges looked official, but something about the way they fidgeted made me uneasy. Karen from the HOA was smirking behind them, holding up a folder like she had the power to ruin my life with a signature. Before I could say anything, my wife stepped forward. Calm, steady, and then she showed her badge. U.S. Marshal. "Step back," she said, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. The so-called officers stiffened, eyes darting between her and Karen. Within seconds, they backed away, muttering excuses. Karen's confident smirk froze, replaced with disbelief. I glanced at her, holding back laughter. "You really thought you could scare us with fake cops?" I asked, my heart still racing. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. My wife put her arm around me, whispering, "Always check the badges first." The whole neighborhood was watching now, phones out, whispers spreading. Karen tried to save face, flapping her hands, yelling something about authority and HOA rules. But the damage was done. Her little act of power had crumbled in front of everyone. And as she stormed off, I realized this was just the beginning. The twist wasn't just that we caught them. Something bigger was coming, and Karen had no idea how far we could go.
Karen didn't just leave quietly. The next morning, she was back at my driveway, this time with a camera crew and a stack of official-looking letters. "You've been cited for multiple violations," she barked, waving the papers like they were weapons. "Your fence, your landscaping, even the color of your mailbox. It's all against HOA rules." I could feel my blood pressure rising, but I stayed calm. My wife stepped beside me again, scanning the letters. "Funny," she said, "because none of these violations exist in the official HOA records." Her tone was sharp, almost dangerous. Karen's eyes narrowed. "Records don't matter. I enforce the rules," she snapped. But I had already taken out my phone, quietly recording everything. Just as she moved closer, trying to intimidate us, a neighbor came out of her house whispering, "Did you call the cops? We saw what happened yesterday." Karen's face flushed red, realizing witnesses were now involved. Then she did something shocking. She grabbed a letter from her folder and tried to shove it into my mailbox. My wife didn't flinch. She stepped forward, blocking Karen, and said quietly, "If you touch that mailbox, it's illegal. You don't own this property." Karen froze again, her confidence cracking under the weight of laws and witnesses. The tension was thick, and I could see a crowd starting to form. Karen's act of power was backfiring, but I had a feeling she wouldn't stop here. She needed one more twist, and I was ready to catch it.
By mid-afternoon, Karen had escalated things in a way I didn't expect. A moving van pulled up to my driveway, and a man in a uniform jumped out, clipboard in hand. "Your car is being towed for HOA violations," he announced. My heart sank for a second, but only for a second. My wife stepped forward, her eyes cold. "Sir, you need to check your orders. This property is privately owned. My husband has full ownership rights. You are committing illegal trespass." The man hesitated, flipping through his clipboard, clearly confused. Karen shouted from behind, "Just tow it! I have the authority!" But the look on her face was different now. Desperate, panicked. I pulled out my phone and started recording, narrating every second. Notice how she's claiming power she doesn't have, and this guy almost fell for it. The neighbor across the street was filming too, capturing Karen losing her composure. Then the twist hit. The towing guy turned to Karen, confused. "Ma'am, these aren't official orders. This paperwork isn't even legitimate. Are you sure you're authorized?" Karen froze completely, and in that moment, I realized just how fragile her little empire of lies really was. My wife grabbed my arm, whispering, "We're going to expose her today, and she won't know what hit her." The crowd was gathering now, whispers growing louder, and Karen's fake authority was collapsing in real time. I knew this confrontation was far from over, but the first real cracks in her plan had begun to show, and I could feel the tide turning in our favor. Karen's face turned bright red, her voice rising as she tried to regain control. "You'll see, I can have you fined, arrested, whatever it takes," she yelled, waving her fake notices like weapons. But the neighbors weren't intimidated anymore. They were watching, murmuring, shaking their heads at her outburst. I took a deep breath and stepped forward, holding up the folder I'd grabbed from my office. "Actually, Karen, let's go over the official property records. Every single thing here proves we own this land. You've been lying to everyone, and now it's on tape." My wife stood beside me, her Marshal badge catching the sunlight, a silent warning to anyone thinking of trying the same stunt again. Karen tried to grab the folder, but my wife moved just in time, blocking her. "Hands off," she said sharply. The camera phones of neighbors captured every second, Karen screaming, flailing, and desperately trying to justify herself. Then, in a last-ditch effort, she tried to pull a fake HOA notice from her purse, waving it like a badge. I pointed to the papers in my hands. "Those are forgeries. Everyone here can see it." The crowd gasped as Karen froze, realizing the humiliation was total. But the real twist came when one of the neighbors stepped forward, holding up their own official HOA app on a tablet. "She's lying," they said, quietly but firmly. "None of this is valid." Karen's eyes darted around, the whispers growing louder, the neighbors' phones recording her every move. In that moment, I knew the next twist wouldn't just expose her, it would make sure she could never use fake authority against anyone again. And deep down, I felt a mix of fear and excitement. Because once you corner a Karen, she always fights back, sometimes in ways you can't predict. Karen's panic was growing by the minute. She stopped her foot, pointing at my driveway. "I'm reporting you for harassment, trespassing, everything!" she shouted, her voice cracking. But this time, no one flinched. Neighbors were stepping closer, some whispering, others filming, all witnessing her unravel. Then she made her boldest move yet. She reached for her phone, dialing what she claimed were law enforcement contacts, pretending to summon backup. I watched her, pretending to be nervous, but my wife's hand brushed mine, calm and steady. "Let's see who actually shows up," she whispered. Minutes later, two men in black uniforms appeared at the curb, badges glinting. Karen straightened immediately, a triumphant smirk returning. But the second they got closer, the real twist hit. My wife stepped out, showing her U.S. Marshal badge again. The men froze, looking between her and Karen, confusion spreading across their faces. "You're not authorized," my wife said calmly. "This is private property. You need to leave." The fake cops exchanged glances, mumbling, and within seconds, they bolted. Karen screamed, stumbling backward, realizing her plan had completely failed again. I could feel the adrenaline pumping, my heart racing. The neighborhood had now seen everything, the fake notices, the fake cops, and Karen's total unraveling. And I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just about proving we were right. It was about showing everyone that lies and fake power have limits, and the next move would seal her fate. Karen wasn't done. Not even after the fake cops sprinted off like scared kids. She stood there, shaking, breathing hard, her eyes darting from neighbor to neighbor, as if searching for someone who still believed her. No one did, and that scared her more than anything. Suddenly, she pulled out a thick envelope from her bag and threw it onto my porch. "This is an eviction notice," she declared, her voice trembling but loud enough for everyone to hear. "You have 72 hours to leave this property." A wave of disbelief rippled through the crowd. Someone even laughed. But I didn't touch the envelope. I just stared at her, letting the weight of her lie hang in the air. My wife stepped forward slowly, each step making Karen flinch. "You forged federal documents," she said quietly. "Do you have any idea what that means?" Karen swallowed hard. I didn't forge anything. The HOA gave me these." "No," a neighbor interrupted, shaking their head. "The HOA board hasn't approved anything in months. We would know." The whispers grew louder. A couple of neighbors were already calling the real HOA president, putting the call on speaker so everyone could hear. And that's when the biggest crack appeared. The HOA president's voice came through the phone, firm and angry. "We issued no eviction notice. Karen has no authority to represent us. None." Gasps broke out. Karen's face went white. I could see her world collapsing, piece by piece, as the truth closed around her. She stepped back, whispering, "You don't understand. I was promised control. I was supposed to run this neighborhood." The words didn't make sense at first. Promised? By who? That was the first moment I felt something twist inside me, a sense that someone else was pulling her strings. Someone higher, someone hidden. And just as that realization hit, Karen's phone rang. She looked at the screen, her expression changed from panic to pure fear. She hung up instantly. Whatever she was involved in, it wasn't just petty HOA drama. Something bigger was moving in the shadows, and it was about to surface.
The tension in the neighborhood had reached a breaking point. Karen was backed into a corner, pacing like a caged animal, muttering to herself about rules and authority. But the real surprise came when a black SUV pulled up silently at the end of the street. Out stepped two uniformed federal agents, badges gleaming in the afternoon sun. Karen's jaw dropped. "What is this?" she stammered, her voice shaking. My wife stepped forward, calm as ever, and held up her Marshal badge. "You've been involved in multiple attempts to impersonate law enforcement and commit fraud. We have video evidence, witness statements, and all necessary documentation. You're under investigation." Karen's confident smirk was gone. She tried to protest, pointing at me and muttering about fake authority, but the agents ignored her, focusing instead on the stack of evidence we had collected. Neighbors watched in stunned silence as the entire truth unraveled, her fake notices, fake cops, and endless lies laid bare for all to see. Then, the final twist hit. As one agent began reading the charges, Karen's phone rang again. This time, it was a number she clearly recognized. Her face went pale. She whispered, "No, not them," before slamming the phone down. I didn't know who them were, but I could feel the storm behind her words. Even with the legal system about to take her down, there was an unmistakable tension, like a hidden hand had orchestrated her rise, and maybe, just maybe, her fall wasn't over yet. My wife put her hand on my shoulder. "One step at a time," she said quietly. "Justice is coming, but we need to be ready for whatever comes next." The crowd murmured, recording every second. Karen had been exposed, humiliated, and cornered, but the sense of unfinished business hung heavy in the air. Something bigger was still at play, and we were right in the middle of it.
The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the street, and Karen was finally led away by the agents, her face a mask of disbelief and fury. The neighborhood, once tense and fearful, had erupted into whispers, laughter, and relieved sighs. People came forward, shaking our hands, thanking us for standing firm. But my wife and I didn't relax just yet. There was still a hum in the air, a feeling that this was more than a simple HOA meltdown. We returned to our porch, reviewing the footage on my phone. Every fake notice, every fake cop, every desperate lie Karen had tried to pull, all neatly recorded. My wife leaned back, her eyes softening for the first time that day. "This isn't just about proving a point," she said quietly. "It's about making sure no one ever tries this again. Protecting your family, your land, your rights. That's what matters." I nodded, feeling a wave of pride and relief. Then, just as we were about to step inside, a message popped up on my wife's Marshal-issued secure device. It was from an unknown federal contact. "Good job exposing Karen, but be aware, there are others. Her network runs deeper than you think." My stomach dropped. The HOA battle felt like a small victory now, part of a much larger game we hadn't even realized we were in. But I smiled, taking my wife's hand. We can handle them. We've got the law, the evidence, and each other. The camera pans over our home, the driveway empty now, except for the fading shadows of the day. Justice had been served, but the story lingered, a warning, a thrill, and a promise that we were ready for whatever came next. And somewhere in the shadows beyond the neighborhood, those who thought they could manipulate and intimidate were watching, realizing for the first time, we weren't afraid. The screen fades to black, leaving the audience with the tension, the triumph, and the chilling hint that the fight for justice and the secrets behind Karen's network was far from over.
The morning after Karen's arrest, the neighborhood felt different. Lighter, almost alive. Kids played on the sidewalks, neighbors chatted freely, and the sense of fear that had hung over our street for months was gone. But as I stepped outside, surveying the quiet, my wife's eyes caught mine. She didn't need words. We both knew the story wasn't truly over. A few blocks away, I noticed a sleek black car parked at the end of the street, engine running but empty. A subtle reminder that Karen's influence wasn't isolated. Her network had layers we hadn't uncovered yet. My wife leaned in, whispering, "They'll test us again, but we're ready." I nodded, gripping her hand. Our family, our land, our rights, we'd defended them, and that gave us power no fake authority could ever take away. Later, we hosted a small block gathering, sharing the story of Karen's fake cops and forged notices. Laughter, gasps, and shaking heads filled the air. "You can't imagine what she tried," a neighbor said, showing a clip from the footage. The truth spread fast, the lesson clear. Entitlement and lies crumble under vigilance and courage. And then came the final twist. A letter slipped under my door, unsigned, marked only with the words, "This isn't over. Watch your back." My pulse quickened, but I smiled. Karen's threats might linger, but we had the law, the evidence, and each other. Justice had been served, families were safe, and the community had grown stronger. The story ended with a feeling of victory, but also a thrill, a warning, and a promise. Standing up for what's right sometimes uncovers deeper battles, and being ready for them is the real power. The screen fades out, leaving the audience both satisfied and on edge, knowing that courage and vigilance never truly end, they only evolve.